Welcome to Build Out with Jim Kunkel, your go-to broadcast for learning more about business in the real world. Your host, Jim Kunkel, who is an accomplished professional in business development, sales, and marketing, and is a technical content creator along with being a rising influencer on LinkedIn. On Build Out, you'll get the latest information and knowledge from subject matter experts from across the globe. Okay, let's get this Build Out broadcast started. And here's your host, Jim Kunkel.
Hey everyone, welcome to an all-new Build Out broadcast backed by popular demand. Sam Navarro from IPC Industries. Sam, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Well, I'll tell you what, episode views were incredible. The replays were just off the hook. It was amazing. So whatever you said resonated with a lot of people across the different platforms that Build Out broadcast on. Hey, Sam, real quick, run through your background again. I know a lot of people do know you, but there are probably maybe one or two people that don't know who you are and what you do in the industrial coatings industry.
So my name's Sam Navarro. I've been in the paint business for 21 years, since I was 19. I'm currently working as the Vice President of Business Development and Marketing for IPC Industries out of Santa Fe, Texas. We are a blast paint and fireproofing company that is heavily focused on the maintenance and tank lining side of the business. And I'm also a NACE 3 or AMP level 3.
Very good, very good. Hey, Sam, big question for you. You a coffee drinker?
I'm a huge coffee drinker.
Oh, you're gonna love this message. Hold on one second. Let's talk about the power of a great cup or mug of coffee. Coffee drinking dates back to at least the 15th century from the Sufi monasteries of Yemen. And by the 16th century, the practice of brewing and drinking coffee spread to Eastern Europe and Southeast Asia. Today, coffee is one of the most highly traded commodities, and after water, the most consumed global beverage. For many around the world, coffee helps start the day and provides a welcome physical and mental boost throughout the day. The official premium coffee of this broadcast comes from coffeebrandcoffee.com, who fresh roast coffee as orders come in. Please support this broadcast and my content by using the special Build Out link to coffeebrandcoffee.com. Order some premium coffee and teas today and support Build Out at the same time. Sam, I'm real excited to announce that I actually have some content supporters out there, and
congratulations.
Thank you. Coffee Brand Coffee is a big supporter of this broadcast, and I encourage everyone. There's a link in the event description. Also, too, I've posted a link as well. But use that link. Take a look at Coffee Brand Coffee. If you're a big coffee or tea person, they sell very premium quality, roasted as you order it type of products. So I really appreciate them supporting me as a content creator.
Yeah,
Sam,
that's awesome. That's great.
Thank you, Sam. I appreciate that. Sam, this month I've been focusing on topics of onboarding and culture. And last week we had a real great discussion regarding culture, and then it kind of really went into the aspect of onboarding. And what I wanted to cover this week with you is the 4 phases of onboarding. The way the industry, glad they sell tea. Yes, Andy, they do sell tea. The cool thing about onboarding is that there is a systematic process to follow when you're rolling it out. And sometimes companies are very conscious with it, and sometimes they're not so conscious with it. And what I wanted to lay out is, what is employee onboarding first to start off? Well, that's that first introduction when you have with a new hire, and you're really kind of welcoming them into the company, into the role, and you're really trying to help establish that beginning with that new hire, that new employee within the company. But it also kind of helps affirm your decision and their decision to either hire them or to have them join the company. Now, some of the things that you want to consider when you're looking at employee onboarding, that it should be built with input from across the company. My experience with onboarding, both as a manager and then also onboarding with companies that I've worked with, is that when you have buy-in by other parts of the company, it really creates a solid and a very systematic approach and also to growth opportunity for that individual. Sam, in your experience, have you relied on other parts of the company to help in that onboarding process?
Absolutely. I mean, speaking from my side of the table, right? So I just really got into the craft recruiting onboarding side a few months ago, and I've gained such a new respect for recruiters, for HR professionals, for the back end heroes that you don't see bringing on folks. The problem isn't could we get the work. The problem is getting the right folks to come on board to execute the work that we sell at our level of quality and efficiency. And so what I've really gained an appreciation for is how much teamwork is actually involved with every different side of the business. And I believe that, I mean, from my perspective, this all goes back to the discussion we had a few months ago on inner marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing internally to build a bulletproof culture? What are you doing for employees, current employees, to tell their friends about how much they enjoy working here? That way they start sending folks our way as well.
Yeah. And something that we had talked about last week on the episode where, you're dealing with industrial painters, and when you're onboarding them, the bulk of your process with the onboarding is in person. But a lot of companies today, and really the last couple of years, really relied a lot of remote and online type of onboarding to get that done. The other thing, when I was doing research on the different ways that onboarding currently is going on, I've also found, and I'm going to probably do an episode in the future regarding using technologies such as augmented reality and virtual reality. And there are some of those that are actually happening. And give you an example, if you're in a certain type of process industry, and you have a remote worker who you're trying to onboard and they're going through a training process, there are augmented reality and virtual reality things. Good example in the industrial coatings industry, we have the virtual reality painting machines where they're actually able to utilize those through the training process before they're actually tasked to take, here's some paint and let's go ahead and do an ASTM panel. So, we're seeing a lot of that happening. For you, working on the industrial coating side, I would imagine that the bulk of your onboarding has to be in person.
It does. And, to quickly highlight your virtual reality stuff, I sat with a guy from the Safety Council here recently, and they're starting to incorporate some of the virtual reality into confined space training and fire watch training. Because that's something that, the more prepared that we can get men and women outside of the refineries and chemical plants themselves, the safer they're going to be when they get in. Here, for craftsmen, for painters and blasters, we have a very personal onboarding process that involves a lot of written tests and hands-on practical tests.
Mm-hmm.
But once they leave here, then they have to go to Safety Council. They have to go to drug testing and all of their stuff. That's where the difficult part is, to keep in touch with people, to be able to communicate with them to where they feel like they're part of the process the entire time.
Yeah, it helps really tie them in. And the neat thing I've seen when I've seen the VR, the VR for the painting side used, it will show efficiencies, effectiveness, the amount of, it would be virtual paint that's used, or the percentage, let's say if they're blasting, because they can paint with those things and they can also blast as well. So it really kind of helps them improve technique, and then also to understanding when they're doing their checks at the end of what type of quality work that they performed. So,
right. But at the end of the day, when it comes to our craftsmen in the field, right? It's not just pulling the trigger, or putting paint on a substrate. For us, we have to make sure that the gentleman or lady knows how to identify the proper PPE, how to mix the paint, how to put the rig together, get all the hoses safely, actually apply the paint. And then the most important part for me, besides safety, is how to efficiently break it all down and clean everything up to where we're responsible with our waste, to where we make sure that we are dealing with everything that we're dealing with.
Very, very good. So it ties into so many different things.
It
And then
does.
the last aspect regarding employee onboarding, just kind of like laying this out at the beginning here, is that you really want to have a comprehensive program, that's best positions a new hire to be successful from the beginning. As we all know, you have 21 days to start a habit. So the first 30 days really need to be not overwhelming. They need to be fulfilling for the new hire, but they have to be very practical. And then the outcome really needs to be at the end of that first 30 days that they are on track, they're trending in the right way regarding their role, and also integrating into the culture of the company, into the company itself, and also sometimes if they're interfaced with customers as well. So those first 30 days are super critical.
Absolutely. We're very diligent on certain things. All of our craftsmen have to either be in coveralls or their FRCs have to be tucked in. We're very particular about our equipment, the way that it's staged at a job site to keep overspray or anything off of the trucks and equipment so that it stays in pristine condition. And all of that is set from the minute that an employee starts. So the minute that an employee starts, it's, we show up to work and get ready to work, and we pull the trigger at 6 a.m. and we're going at 6 a.m. So whether you have to show up 10 minutes before 6 or 40 minutes before 6, work starts at 6 on our jobs. And I think that that's part of the onboarding process that a lot of people miss, is being very steadfast in what is your company's procedures and making sure that that's established way in the front. Because if an employee starts and he goes 30, 45, 60 days, and then you start trying to change those habits that he or she may have, then you're in for a completely different battle.
So true, so true. And 3 important benefits from quality onboarding, and this came from Roundtable Learning. 50% higher employee retention. It costs money to recruit and to onboard somebody, so you need to have the best percentage of retention. Now, you're never going to have 100%, but the closer you can get to 100%, the better you're going to be as a company. The other thing is 54% higher productivity levels, because again, like I say, that first month is so critical to establish them in the role, help them understand the role and be successful in the role, at least at an initial start. And then a 34% faster full proficiency gained among employees. So again, that ramp up process at the beginning with a proper onboarding program is super critical. Anything else that you would want to add as a benefit to a quality onboarding program, Sam?
For me, it's leveling people up. So if you're bringing in entry level positions, making sure that you have a plan established and the employee knows, and their manager or supervisor knows that we don't want to keep them here. Our goal is to have them track up and trend up, because that's how we get more on our investment, right? On these craftsmen, is how long do they stay, and are we grooming them to go up? I'm a huge fan of bringing in people and training them and giving them the opportunity to excel in their career. It all starts with bringing people up. And once they feel like they have a goal to reach, or once they feel like they have a future, they're way more likely to stick around than when they're just another warm body filling in the gates.
Yeah, that's so true there as well. Yeah. The first phase with quality onboarding, or a proper onboarding program, is the pre-onboarding. And this is really, it begins right the minute that offer is accepted for the position or the job. And you ramp it up. So, for example, some companies require a 2-week notice. So if you have somebody who has to give a 2-week notice, or they're going to transition from their old company into your new company or into a new company, that's an opportunity for you to really have them complete all the new hire paperwork. If they're relocating, maybe you do want to provide some level of assistance and help with them. And then also, too, important documentation, provide them the employee handbook ahead of time. Maybe you have some video or an online type of resource that kind of help them acclimate at the beginning with the company, the culture and the mission, because the more that they have an understanding of coming into the first day, the better they're going to be when it comes to doing the actual rollout of that day one through, let's say, first 30 days. Or if you're going to look to onboard even past that, maybe you do a 30 onboard and then you're doing a 60, 90-day performance.
Yep.
How important is it to have that communication and interaction with them before they actually physically start, Sam?
We try to keep in good communication, letting people know exactly where they're going to report to, who they're going to report to, what time they should show up, to make sure that they have their badges. Nobody has the perfect answer for all of this stuff, and nobody knows how each other's feeling, right? And there's a level of anxiety and excitement when you're starting a new job, no matter where it is or how it is. Jim, you know that here recently, you just started at AXO. And so, the more ahead of time that we can inform our men and women of what it's going to be like, what to expect, who they're going to report to, at least they have a name, they have a contact, they have a place that they're going to go to. The more of those boxes that we can check, the better for the craftsman.
Yeah, it just flows so well. It's a very logical process, but also too, it really accomplishes so much, because if you wait in that first day and you're hitting them with, I need you to fill out 20 documents, sign 18 places, all this other stuff, that can be overwhelming. And I think also too, you kind of miss that first day to really kind of imprint strongly. And, those are days where you really want to use, and we'll go in that in the second phase here, so we might as well transition. Those are days where you want to kind of keep it simple at the beginning and take them on their tour and introductions and things like that. So that, the second phase with onboarding is really dedicated on that welcoming of the new hire to the company. You're going to be providing them that first day orientation, but you really want to keep that first week, especially the first day and the first week, as simple as you can. And then it's a really at the beginning of the process here on that first day. That's a great opportunity to introduce them to the company culture. You're going to run through all the important things as a staff person or employee that you need to do. It could be time clocks. It could be anything related to that as an employee. Do a facility tour and introduce them to their teammates and also the key stakeholders, other department heads they might be working with or other resources they may be working with. And then the other thing too that I find very valuable, and it's something that, even recently I experienced in my transition into Axel Nobel with International, is, having end of the day conversations, not only with my manager, but also too, as I transitioned into a retiring manager's position, we would have daily debriefings to kind of say, okay, how did this go today? What could we do differently? What did we miss? What should we go back over again? And that really, in my first 30 days into my transition into the position, it really benefited me, because it set me up for success moving into my 60, 90 days. And, now I'm moving into 120. So I'm pretty excited to having that type of a program laid out for me. But, is there anything else that maybe, that first day or that first week that is not included on here that you would offer up, Sam?
I just hired a young man straight out of the Tech City High School he had very good computer skills, very good organizational skills. And he wanted to be more of an admin position. And I listened to his strengths. He wasn't scared of getting dirty by any means, but he had a lot of talents that could be used in the office. And so I'm very lucky. I've said it a million times that I work for a very forward-thinking man. And so Clay was okay with bringing this young man in. And, on his first day, I honestly just had him sitting with me and just listening. He's helping me on some of the recruiting. I said, just hang out, take notes. I'll tell you what's important. As the week went on Friday before he went home, we had a nice little half-hour discussion of what did you like, what did you don't like, this and this and this. And I told the other kids as well that we have to constantly take criticism in a positive way. So if something didn't go well, if you didn't like something, just tell me. That way we can change this thing. And I think a lot of companies fail in the fact that they think that their way is the perfect way. And there is no perfect way. And people are changing. It's hard to communicate to a 22-year-old. I don't have the same interest that my daughter does. It's those little things that we as a company have to constantly focus on evolving for who we're trying to hire. We shouldn't make other people have to think the way that we think on everything.
Yeah, there's critical things, obviously when it comes to, safety and performance and things like that. But on some of the cultural things, there has to be some flexibility built in, or some of the social things has to be some flexibility built into that, as long as it doesn't obviously negatively impact the company or the safety or the health or anything like that. But good points on that, really good points. The third phase is where you're getting into that, really training them, getting them up to speed when it comes to, what they're going to be asked to do and their position. And it really helps them kind of thrive and move forward with it. But, this is where it really comes important to have that, as it says here, establish a well-drafted new hire training program. You really want to have something that might be industry best practice. That's the way it's written. Something that would be really vetted, I think, because I've seen actually some of the hire training, or the training programs actually are based off of industry recommendations. Sometimes they even go to a third party. Not to say you have to do it all the time. Maybe you go to somebody who covers the industry to kind of really help craft that out. And then the other thing too is relying on your existing. Maybe you have a senior management who can help really draft out that training program for the new hire. But the other thing too is every company and organization tends to have some type of a learning management system, an LMS. It could be something as simple as a share drive folder with different trainings that are in there, or it could be something, like Andy had mentioned earlier with the American Welding Society. They utilize VR. They have a lot of online training resources for welders who are coming on board that can be used by any company that has welders and things like that. If you're a member, you do have access to stuff like that. So, having that a learning management system is very critical for you, I think, to some level of extent. You might not have anything robust. It might be something simple, but it's still an LMS. And then the other thing too that I found beneficial is, having them matched with peers, or having them really, if it's a manager's position and you have other equal managers, maybe having them being mentored in their first 6 months or their first year. That's always and I'm sure probably IPC has mentorships as well.
Yeah, we do actually. One of the young men that we hired from the high school, I happen to know his dad, and his dad. I checked in with his dad at the end of the young man's first week, and I said, "Well, how's he doing?" And he said, "Man, thank you for pairing him up with such a great crew. He loves those guys. They're taking care of him, and they're really showing him, the ropes." And so obviously I, called the crew leader, and I called the site manager and thanked them for their efforts. Because it is daunting, right? Like the first time in a refinery, or, coming into a new company. And if you get kind of just thrown to the wolves, and I've been in that situation before in my career where I was literally just thrown in the wolves, and, 50% of the people are going to make it and the other 50 aren't. But when you spend that much time, effort, and especially money, and you invest in bringing people on, the idea is to make money and to not lose that money on those folks.
Yeah, it's so true about that. And the other thing I like what you had talked about were the feedback, where you were able to go back to the crew, say, "Hey guys, great job. This individual really is real happy to be part of the crew, and that really helps kind of build in that culture, but also the mentality of a team, or let's say in some cases family, depending on what type of a business you are. A lot of times when I've worked at companies, it's more of a family than let's say a team or a crew that you're working on. So that's super critical. And then the last phase that we're going to cover for onboarding is, easing to transition into their new role. And this is really where you're kind of setting up their goals. And the goals will be realistic goals, but some stretch goals as well. And expectations. You really want to have clear expectations as to what you're looking from them. And then sometimes the expectations could be something that's gradually rolled out. So what you're trying to do is kind of help stage them through the process, so they become, at the end of maybe their first year or 6 months, they're very proficient in their position. And as I mentioned in that second bullet, SMART goals, They have to be something that's going to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive. So that's important to have those goals established. And then after the first month and first quarter of a new hire, to have some performance reviews, have some check-ins and things like that. For example, where I'm at now, we have quarterly check-ins. We have other types of reviews. We have other type of huddles and meetings and things like that. So that's important to have because it really helps that person really get into their job a little bit more, have better understanding of how important their role is, or maybe their team's role. And then also, too, I think when it comes down to performance, they know that they are progressing in the right direction. And guess what? If they're not, this is where corrective action comes in. So they have their own corrective action plan or performance improvement plan, depending on what you want to call it. So, Sam, when you're looking at easing in that transition phase and setting goals and performance and things like that, what are some of the things that you recommend?
So I'm pretty simple. I try to keep things to my IQ level, right? So like I like a 30-90 or 30-60 and 90 day start off, and then I check in quarterly. The young man that we hired to be a corporate admin who works directly for me, assisting me in the recruiting, he's got a set list of goals that he's supposed to reach by this date, and this date. And I made it very clear that while we have the target date of hitting, we understand that life happens, right? Somebody gets sick. Things happen in a family, things happen in jobs where maybe, I'm in FRs today and I'll be on site for the rest of the afternoon. So I'm not going to be in the office to help teach him the things that I maybe should have been here. But that doesn't mean that we can't move forward. We just have to adjust that timeline a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think that just making sure that everyone understands what the end goal is and how we work our way back really helps to set up a successful timeline.
Yeah, that's good. Good recommendations on that. And some final thoughts that I had, onboarding is such an essential part of a company, and you really have to put a lot of time and effort into it, but it has to be really managed properly because that onboarding process is so critical in establishing the relationship and then also to the commitment with the new hire. As we talked about earlier with retention and performance and things like that, there's so much that's invested into a new hire, and you really need to make sure that you validate the decision, both their decision, your decision, but also too that you want to set them up for the best success that there can be. And then, if anyone else has anything, please don't hesitate to post here on the live stream. And then, too, you can also follow up with Sam or myself after this broadcast ends.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, don't worry, Gregory. Actually, the replay will be available, and then links on my web or on YouTube and things like that. But I'll make sure that I do send you the link so that you can have that to watch it.
Yeah, Jim, on your final thought here, the second little bullet point,
Sure.
It's really determining what your business model is. So for us, we always say we don't hire to fire, right? So we don't necessarily chase large capital projects where we're sending people all over the country for an unknown amount of time where they're going to work, let's say 3 weeks, and then we lay them all off and then go chase the next one. That's not our business. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that the folks that we hire are good, working consistent hours, locations, all of that, because in the craft industry, a lot of folks they've grown into this traveling, almost like just a band of guys that go from job to job to job to job. Well, some guys really enjoy that, but some also don't. Obviously, in the office side of the business, when we plan to hire an individual, we know that overhead's going to take an impact right out the bat. So we have to plan on doing that. We don't want to invest all that time and money into them if they're going to leave. So it's all about, investing in the person that you hire and making sure that you're trying to set them up. Otherwise, you're just spinning wheels, right?
Yeah.
We run a very lean company. We wear a lot of hats. We keep things going very simple, which allows us to retain people because we don't have a whole heck of a lot of overhead to worry about if things don't go well. But thankfully, we've been able to really boost our business where we're adding folks not only on the craftsman side, but also the office side. We've brought in 2 new individuals this year for office positions. And so, we're growing. It's just a matter of growing to the realistic expectations.
Oh, very good. That's very good final thoughts here, Sam. Sam, how can people follow you? Social media, other ways?
Just right here on LinkedIn. I mean, I use this for all professional, platforms. I try to put in some thoughts here and there and try to really connect with industry folks and try to share some of the really nice opportunities that I've been able to do in my life. Mentoring is a big deal. Volunteering is a big deal for me. And I try to push that as much as possible, trying to get more people to go for it and do it as well.
Very good. Very good. Everyone, thank you so much for another great episode, Sam. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of messages, and this one will be highly watched in the replay as well. Sam, thank you so much for taking time of your day and joining me to talk about this topic.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day, okay?
All right, you too. All right, everybody, have a great day. See you next Wednesday.
I hope you found value with today's Build Out broadcast. Make sure you connect with Jim on LinkedIn and subscribe to his YouTube channel. This way you'll be notified on new live streams and when new content is released. Please give today's broadcast a like and share with your connections and colleagues. Thanks for watching, and please visit buildoutproductions.com for additional content and to join the mailing list so you can keep updated on other streams and quality content from the creators on the Build Out Productions team.